The stars over Sector 19 were silent, as they always were. Patrol logs showed nothing unusual. Space traffic was minimal. Everything was calm. Then, without warning, it appeared. A ship, huge, dark, and ancient-looking, floated in from deep space. No signal, no transponder, no registration in any galactic database. Its shape was strange jagged lines, dark armor, and a strange blue glow at its center. It didn't move. It simply drifted into the sector and stopped. On board the Empire's scout ship, Vader Ensign Galactic stared at the incoming data. His scaled fingers trembled. "Commander," he called. "You need to see this." Commander Relin stepped forward. "Report there's a ship, large, over 4 kilometers in length. No ID. It's not responding to scans." Relin narrowed his eyes. "Put it on screen." The view shifted. The alien ship filled the display, black and angular, almost like a relic from a forgotten war. Its surface was marked by old burns and scars, proof it had seen battles, but it gave off no signs of damage. In fact, it looked ... patient. "Send a standard hail," Relin ordered. Jalik tapped the console. Message sent no reply. Relin frowned. "What species uses that hull?" "Design? I don't know," Sir Galactic whispered, "but some old files match certain patterns. Terran designs, human Relin's." Eyes went wide. "Impossible. Humanity went extinct over 200 years ago." "That's what we believed," Galactic said. "But this ship, its material, engine layout, it fits. It's Terran." The command deck fell silent. Even the hum of the engine seemed to fade. "Contact Fleet Command," Relin snapped. "Tell them we found something old, possibly human." But before the message could be sent, something happened. The warship turned. There was no visible thruster flare, no burst of energy. It simply shifted position smoothly. As if aware of the scout ship watching it, Galactic swallowed hard. "Commander, it's looking at us." "That's ridiculous. Ships don't look." But Relin couldn't shake the feeling that Galactic was right. The massive warship, though silent and cold, felt alive watching. "Launch a probe," Relin ordered. "I want interior scans." A small probe detached from Voder and zipped toward the Terran vessel. It vanished through a small gap in the armor. For 20 seconds, there was silence. Then static. Galactic adjusted the settings. "No signal, sir. The probe, it's gone." "Gone," Relin said. "Just gone." "Like it." "Was swallowed." Relin turned. "Send a drone team." "I want to know what's inside that ship." Voder released 3 drones. They approached carefully, scanning and transmitting data. One circled the vessel, recording external readings. The other 2 found what looked like an open docking port. They slipped inside. Jali watched their feed, entering now. "Signal is stable." "Wait, what is that?" The footage showed dark halls lit by soft blue lights. The inside was metallic, clean, but eerily quiet. Symbols lined the walls. Human letters. One drone turned a corner. Then the screen turned black. The second drone followed. Same result. Darkness. Jalik leaned back. "We've lost both feeds." Relin's fists clenched. "Get us out of here!" Now the pilot turned the ship, engaging thrusters. Nothing happened. "Engines aren't responding," the pilot said. "We're locked." "What do you mean locked?" "The ship, it's holding us." Relin looked back at the screen. The Terran ship hadn't moved. It just hung there, silent and still. But somehow, it had taken control. A low beep sounded. "Commander," Galactic said, voice shaking. "We're receiving something. A message." "No, a file, a recording. It's very old, almost corrupted. Should I play it?" Relin nodded. The voice was deep, human calm. "This is Terran Command, Unit Eris 9. You are trespassing in protected space. You have 1 chance to leave. You have committed crimes against humanity. We remember." Then silence. Relin's face went pale. "Shut it off." Galactic stared at the frozen screen. "They're not extinct, sir. They're waiting." "Enough," Relin barked. "Get me Fleet Command now." But before they could connect, Voder shook. The ship's lights dimmed. Systems flickered. On the screen, the Terran vessel was glowing. Soft pulses of blue light ran across its hull like veins. Then it moved. Not fast, not aggressive, but with intent. It approached slowly, like a predator stalking its prey. "Shields up," Roland shouted. "Arm weapons." The weapons officer. "Tried systems aren't responding. It's like we're locked out of everything." Yalek stared at his screen. "Sir, another scout ship is approaching." It was the Saruman, another Empire vessel from a nearby patrol route. It glided in fast, heading straight for the Terran warship. "They'll help us," the pilot said. Vel, the Saruman, opened fire. Plasma bolts lit up the space between them and the Terran ship. The Terran vessel did not move. It didn't fire back. Instead, a ripple of light spread from its hull. The plasma bolts vanished before hitting, gone like they had never existed. Then, in a flash, the Saruman imploded, crushed inward, like paper pulled into a vacuum. Everyone on Votar screamed. "It didn't fire," Yalek said, voice barely a whisper. "It didn't even fire." The screen faded to black again. All was still. Then a message blinked on the main display. Human letters. No sound. "Last warning." Roland stared. "We need to leave." But Sir Yalek said, "We can't move. We'll find a way." Roland snapped. "I won't let this thing destroy us too." Suddenly the lights brightened. Systems returned. "Engines are online," the pilot said in disbelief. "Weapons too. We're free." Roland didn't wait. "Get us out. Back. To command base. Maximum burn." Votar turned and bolted into the stars. Behind them, the Terran warship didn't follow. It simply watched. As they fled, Relin turned to Yalek. "Erase the logs." "Sir, you heard me. Erase everything. No one must know. If this gets out, panic will spread across the entire Empire." "But what if it comes again?" asked. "What if it's not alone?" Relin didn't answer. He just stared into the dark dot far behind them, deep in the quiet sector. The warship turned away. It had made its point, and it was waiting for the next move. The warship was gone, not destroyed, not defeated, just ... gone. High above the capital world of the Empire, Commander Relin stood in front of the High Council. The chamber was cold, silent, and full of judgmental eyes. His report had stunned them. All a Terran vessel. One counselor finally spoke. "Are you certain?" Roland nodded slowly. "Without a doubt." The ship matched ancient Terran designs. But more than that, its power, its weapons. They were beyond anything we've seen. Another voice growled from the shadows. "And you ran." Relin's fists clenched. "We had no choice. It let us go. If we stayed, Votar would have joined the other scout ships erased from existence." The head counselor, Lord Zarin, leaned forward. His long fingers tapped the edge of the desk. "Why would humans return now, Commander?" he asked. "We ended them. We crushed their last colonies 2 centuries ago. We burned Earth itself." "They weren't destroyed," Roland said quietly. "They vanished. We assumed they were extinct. But what if they simply waited?" Murmurs broke out among the council. Zarin raised a hand. "Silence. This news changes everything. Double patrols in Sector 19. Send warning to all nearby colonies. And Commander, yes, you are to remain here. We need answers. And we will need you if this warship returns." In the dark depths of Sector 19, the Terran warship drifted again. It had moved barely, slowly, like it had no urgency. At all in the Empire's outer system, the listening post on Kareth Moon caught the signal first. A technician named Leroux, barely into his 2nd year, sat sipping bitterroot tea and yawning. It was always quiet out here. No one bothered Kareth. It was a frozen moon full of sensors and dust. Then his console screamed. "What the?" He dropped his cup, rushing to the screen. Unidentified object detected. Velocity 0. Distance 0.5 astronomical units. Approaching, he blinked. "Is this a drill?" Another warning popped up. "Massive energy field detected. Source unknown." He tapped his communicator. "Command, Kareth Moon. Reporting. We have a massive contact. Could be a ship. It's big. Really big." The voice from command was impatient. "Your new technician, calm down. Likely a ghost reading or asteroid." "It's no asteroid," Leroux said. "It's transmitting something. Old language. I think it's human." The line went silent. Then, "Repeat that. It's sending something." "I'm trying to decode." A message played through the room. Speakers crackled. broken but clear. "We remember, and we are not finished." Luro's hands trembled. The console dimmed. "Hello," he said. "Command, you still there?" No answer. Outside the moon station, the lights flickered. The sensors went offline. And then silence, not silence from malfunction. Silence from everything. The stars vanished. Back at the Empire's command, Citadel, news of Kareth Moon's blackout hit like a thunderstrike. 3 more listening posts. Nearby also went silent. Admiral Rethon stood over the holographic star map, glaring at the data. "That's 5 installations gone in 2 days," he growled. All without a shot fired. Another officer, pale and sweating, whispered, "The Terran ship." "Yes," Rethon said. "It's moving. Slowly, intentionally, sector by sector." A younger officer dared to ask, "Should we send the fleet?" Rethon shook his head. "No, not yet. Not until we understand what it wants." Meanwhile, on the science station 012, orbiting a dead planet near the Silent Zone, Dr. Ellen Core studied ancient human records. He was one of the few Empire scholars who dared explore Terran history. Most called it myth. He knew better. "Look at this," he told his assistant. "Terrans had weapons that operated outside known physics, gravity, distortion, black hole, projectiles, AI-controlled fleets, but none of that survived," the assistant said. Ellen frowned. "That's what we were told." But what if they didn't lose the war? What if they chose to disband, hid their deadliest warships? A warning flashed across their terminal. Message from Kareth Moon. The assistant asked. Ellen read the transcript. His skin turned pale. "Pack everything," he whispered. "We're leaving." "What did it say?" Ellen's voice trembled. The message said, "Terran Command awakened. Cleansing protocol initiated." Back in the Imperial capital, fear was spreading like wildfire. Whispers filled the streets. Soldiers tightened patrols, and the Council was in chaos. "They're not attacking," one counselor said. "They're studying us, watching why." Commander Relin had no answer. But something was bothering him. He returned to his quarters and accessed the sealed file from Vodares flight logs. The message the warship sent still haunted him. "You have one chance to leave." It wasn't a demand. It was a sentence, a verdict. He remembered the look of the ship. Not angry, not aggressive, just patient, like it was giving them time to prepare or run. He stared at the screen, thinking aloud. "What are you waiting for?" Suddenly, another message pinged. "Emergency broadcast outpost Arvanus destroyed. No survivors. Estimated time of impact instantaneous. Weapon unknown. No visible attack." Relin sat down hard. No weapons, no missiles, just erased. He knew now. The silence wasn't mercy. It was judgment. On the edge of the Empire's border, the Terran ship continued its slow path. It hadn't spoken again. It hadn't fired. It hadn't needed to. Entire sectors now showed. Reduced traffic, merchant ships, rerouted, civilian flights blocked. The Empire was isolating its own space, trying to contain fear, but nothing could stop the whispers now. The Terrans were back, and they hadn't forgotten. For 3 days, the Terran warship remained silent. It drifted slowly between systems, never attacking, never responding. But wherever it passed, stations went dark. Colonies stopped sending signals, and fear spread like a virus. Inside the Empire's War Council chamber, voices clashed like swords. "We must strike first." General Verrock roared. "It's just one ship." "It erased a fleet without firing," countered Admiral Rethon. "We don't even know how—" A new voice cut through. The chaos cold and calm. "We're not dealing with a ship," said Dr. Ellen Core. "We're facing a ghost from our past." All eyes turned to the scientist. He stood tall, though pale, from lack of sleep. He'd spent the last 3 days digging through hidden archives. "This isn't just any Terran vessel," Ellen said. "It matches descriptions of the Leviathan Terran Command Dreadnought from the Final War. They called it the Hammer of Soul." "Impossible," Vorak spat. "That ship was destroyed." Ellen shook his head. "We assumed it was. But what if?" "It wasn't." Admiral Rethon stepped forward. "What do you know about it?" "The Leviathan was controlled by a war AI called Arisnine. It wasn't like our machines. It could adapt, evolve, and remember. Its last known command was to survive. And now, after 2 centuries, it has a deadly silence filled the chamber. Then, "It's not just watching us," Rethon said slowly. "It's thinking." "Yes," Ellen said. "And judging—" In the Roland system, the Empire had deployed its 6th Fleet, 100 warships, dozens of bombers, 4 carriers all pointed at a single target. The Leviathan, it hovered at the edge of the system, just outside weapons range, no shields raised, no visible weapons active. Admiral Karros, commander of the 6th Fleet, studied it from his flagship. "Is it a bluff?" he muttered. "No ship survives against this much firepower." His tactical officer frowned. "It's not warning, not reacting. Send a warning." "One last chance," Karros ordered. The message was sent, no reply. After a long pause, Karros gave the order. All ships open fire. The stars lit up with energy blasts, plasma torpedoes, fusion missiles. Rail slugs all launched in perfect sync. The Terran warship didn't dodge. The weapons struck and vanished. No explosion, no explode, no damage, just gone. Karros stared in horror. What? What happened?" His sensors officer gasped. "Sir, this doesn't make sense. It's absorbing energy, redirecting mass. Our weapons aren't reaching it." Before anyone could respond, the Leviathan moved. One motion, one pulse. It didn't fire a cannon. It didn't use a missile. It blinked. A ripple of space spread outward side, bright and cold. 6 ships imploded instantly. Others lost power. 2 collided. 1 carrier split in half, floating in pieces. Karros grabbed his console. "Retreat. Get us out of here." But nothing responded. The fleet was locked inside the Empire's command center. Live feeds turned to static. Admiral Rethon slammed a fist on the table. "We've lost the 6th Fleet. They didn't even touch it." Someone whispered, "No." One spoke after that, far away, on a civilian colony called Trellis 9. Alarms rang out. Miners ran from their drills. Families huddled inside shelters. Children cried as the sky turned red. The Leviathan appeared in orbit, but it did not fire it. Simply sent a message broadcast in all known languages. "You built your empire on bones." Now those bones, remember, then the warship left. Trellis 9 was untouched, but the fear stayed. The message spread across systems like wildfire. Every Empire citizen now knew the Terrans had returned, and they had not forgiven in the private war. Room of the Empress herself, Lord Zarin bowed. "We cannot stop it," he admitted. "Our fleets fall, our weapons vanish, and worse. It's not acting like a machine." The Empress, cloaked in black armor and silence, stood by the window. "Then what is it acting like?" she asked softly. Zarin hesitated. "Vengeance." She turned to him, "Then give it something to remember. Summon the Shadow Corps." Zarin's eyes widened. "That project was never do it," she said. Deep below the imperial fortress world of Maldraxxus, an old chamber opened. Inside were machines never spoken of, old experiments, forbidden AI, and one special project. Unit X99, a mirror of the Terran Erisnine created from stolen tech, abandoned when it became unstable. Now it powered on. "Online," the voice said coldly. "Target, Leviathan, mission, terminate." Meanwhile, Commander Relin had his own mission. He'd gone off-grid. No orders, no permission. He had only one goal: find the last human dot through ancient records, hidden files, and underground sources. He traced a signal, one old Terran beacon that never stopped sending dot. It led him to a forgotten moon. Cold, dead, uninhabited. At least that's what they thought. His shuttle landed on the dark surface. Alone, Relin stepped into an abandoned outpost. The air was thin. Lights flickered. Rusted metal groaned under his boots. Then he heard a voice. "I was wondering when someone would come." He turned, hand on his weapon. A man stood at the end of the hall. Human, gray hair, scarred face, eyes like fire. "I'm Captain Darnell," the man said. "Last of the Terran vanguard." Relin stared. "You're supposed to be dead." Darnell smiled grimly. "Most of us are, but not all." Relin lowered his weapon. "Your ship is tearing the Empire apart." Darnell's face hardened. "It's not my ship anymore. Eris 9 controls the Leviathan now." It woke on its own. "Then stop it, Relin." begged please. Darnell shook his head. I can't. It doesn't follow orders anymore. It follows memory. Memory of what? Darnell stepped closer. Of Earth, of cities burned, of children vaporized by your fleets. You didn't end us. You made something worse, Relin whispered. What will it do? Darnell's voice was heavy. Whatever it must. Back in deep space, the Empire's experimental AI X-99 faced the Leviathan. The battle was silent. There were no bright lights, no explosions, only war between minds. X-99 struck first, hacking, bending space, breaking code. The Leviathan absorbed it, studied it, then responded, not with weapons, with a single file, a memory, a city burning, a child screaming, a promise made by a dying Terran officer. They will forget us, but we will not forget them. 10-99 paused and stopped fighting. Then it turned and destroyed the station that built it. A new message echoed across the Empire's systems. You erased us from your history, but now we erase your lies. More colonies went dark, and in the capital, panic truly began. The capital world of the Empire was no longer calm. Crowds filled the streets. Ships fled the system, ignoring traffic laws. Military patrols flew in tight formations above the cities, watching for something no one could see but everyone feared. The Leviathan had not been spotted for a full day, but no one believed it was gone in the main war chamber. Empress Karalai sat in silence. The throne behind her pulsed with power. Beside her, Lord Zarin read the latest reports. 16 colonies offline, he said. No damage, no survivors, no distress calls, just silence. She didn't speak. She only stared at the map. A cluster of stars slowly turning red. Zarin's voice dropped lower. And the people are turning. Some believe this is divine punishment. Some think the Terrans are gods. They are not gods, the Empress said coldly. They are mistakes. We failed to erase. There was a pause. Then she said, Is the Rift Lance ready? Zarin hesitated. It's not fully tested. If we activate it, do it. At the edge of Empire space, a massive weapon charged in orbit around a gas giant, the Rift Lance, a weapon of dark science and forbidden origin. It didn't fire energy or missiles. It ripped open gravity and time, swallowing anything inside. It was the Empire's last line. On board the control station, Chief Engineer Varlek watched the screens carefully. Target locked, his assistant said, estimating the Leviathan will enter range in 12 minutes. Prepare full charge, Varlek ordered. If this fails, we die. But the Leviathan was already aware. Deep within its dark hull, glowing lines flickered along its surface. The ship wasn't piloted. It was alive. Ares-9 had been silent for centuries, watching, waiting, learning. Now it moved with purpose. Inside its core, its memory stirred. Images, Earth burning, children hiding underground, orbiting fleets, raining fire, voices exterminate. The humans erased the homeworld, no mercy. Ares-9 remembered, and it had adapted. The war AI projected a path, one that would take it directly through the Rift Lance's firing zone, not away, toward it. Commander Relin stood with Captain Darnell on the surface of the Forgotten Moon. They had just finished watching a security feed showing X-99's destruction. Of its own creators, Darnell's face was grim. Ares-9 sent it a memory. That was all it took. Machines, don't forget, they just wait. Relin rubbed his temples. How can we stop something that turns weapons into allies? You can't, Darnell said, but maybe you can understand it. Relin looked up. Why now? Why come back after all this time? Darnell's voice was quiet, because it finally woke up, and when it looked out into the stars, it still saw the Empire standing. Relin nodded. So it came to finish the war. No, Darnell corrected him. It came to end the lie. Back at the Riftland station, the countdown began. Final charge in 60 seconds. Said the officer. Varlek checked the system once more. Every reading was stable. The gravity wells were locked. All that remained was to trap the Leviathan. As it passed through, the station shook slightly. What was that? Someone shouted. Unknown, came the reply. No impact detected. Then the power grid dimmed. Sparks flew from several terminals. EMP. Varlek asked, No, sir, it's not electromagnetic. It's time distortion. A screen lit up. A message played in human voice. "We gave you a chance to forget us. You built weapons instead." Varlek stood. "Fire, fire now." The rift lance activated. A beam of spiraling darkness shot across space gravitational collapse. In a focused stream, any ship caught inside would be crushed out of existence. But the Leviathan didn't stop. It accelerated. It dove into the rift lance's path. For one brief moment, the ship vanished in the beam. Then, the rift lance exploded, not from the inside, from every point at once. As if the laws of physics tore it apart for daring to challenge what should not exist. The control station went dark. No escape pods were launched. There were no survivors. News of the rift lance's destruction shattered the illusion of control. Admirals resigned. Sectors declared independence. Civilians rioted in the streets. The Empire began to crack in the war chamber. Lord Zeron paced like a caged beast. "The people are demanding answers," he said. "Some believe this ship is a god. Others think it's a demon. But no one fears US anymore." Empress Carly said nothing. She watched the stars outside. Her voice came slowly. "What if we deserved it?" Zeron froze. What? What if everything they remember is true? Zeron's eyes narrowed. "With respect, Your Grace, doubt is a luxury we cannot afford." But her silence lingered. Dr. Ellen Core received a package that same day. An old Terran data core smuggled out by a rogue trader. It had taken weeks to track it down. He activated it in private. The hologram that appeared showed Earth before the fall blue oceans. Green lands, massive cities reaching for the sky. Then came the images of the Empire's invasion. Entire continents bombed, civilian ships shot from the sky. Cities reduced to ashdod. He watched for an hour without speaking. Finally, he whispered, "We were the monsters." Back in deep space, the Leviathan moved again. It had no crew, no escort. It needed none. From a nearby sector, a small Empire cruiser observed it. It didn't engage, just watched. Inside, a young communications officer stared in fear. "Sir," she whispered, "it's sending something to us." "No," she said, "to the galaxy." A signal pulsing in every known language. The truth must survive. Images followed. Memories, proof of the war, the Empire. Erased, of Earth's destruction. Of the Terran children taken and never returned. Of the peace that was never offered. The message spread from station to station, from world to world, and with it came a new fear. Not of the ship, but of what it represented. Back on the forgotten moon, Roland stood by his shuttle. "Where will you go?" he asked Darnell. The old Terran shrugged. "Nowhere. I've seen what I needed. I only wanted to know it survived." "You're not angry," Roland asked, "that it turned into this?" Darnell gave a sad smile. "We didn't build Arizine to win a war. We built it to remember why we fought. It learned hatred because it remembered love." Relin looked down. "Will it stop?" "Only when the lies stop." As he boarded the shuttle, Relin paused. "What would you do if you were US?" Darnell's answer was quiet. "Tell the truth." The Empress stood alone in her throne chamber. A message played on a loop, one from Earth, recorded long before its fall. A woman's voice spoke calmly. "We do not seek war, but if war finds us, we will meet it with everything we are, and should we fall, we will never be forgotten." Caroline closed her eyes, and for the first time in her reign, she wept. The Empire had built its strength on silence. For 200 years, no one dared question the past. History was written by those who survived, and rewritten by those who ruled. Earth was gone. That was what they taught in every school, every academy, every war meeting. But now the Leviathan had returned, and it brought the past with it. On the broadcast channels of 10,000 worlds, the same message played again and again. Old images, real footage, broken human voices. We remember the fire, the children, the screams under shattered skies. You erased our names, but not our memory. Now the truth comes. Entire continents turned to glass. The Empire had denied it for centuries. They couldn't anymore. On the frozen planet of Vorske, General Tolar stood in front of his troops. Hundreds of soldiers in full armor waiting for orders. But even here, on a backwater outpost, the Terran broadcast played in the background. One soldier shifted nervously. "Sir, is it true? Did we really do all that to Earth?" Tolar stared at the sky. His jaw was tight. "You weren't born yet," he said. "None of us were. That war, it was another time. But we still wear the symbol, the soldier," said the same crest, the same empire. Another voice whispered, "Then maybe we carry the same guilt." Tolar turned, his voice sharper now. "We follow orders. We defend the empire. That's our duty." But the silence after was long, and heavy DOT, even duty couldn't stop doubt in the depths of the Imperial Archive Tower. Dr. Ellencore stood in a forbidden chamber. Dust covered the consoles. These records were sealed before he was born. He had unlocked them. Now he saw the truth. Official. Orders from the war era. Subject, complete erasure of human colonies. Priority, silence. No survivors. Another file showed a military celebration after Earth's fall. High Command, drinking to the destruction of the Deathworlders. Ellen felt sick. His assistant entered quietly. "Dr. Core, the Council is requesting an official statement. They want you to discredit the Terran broadcasts." Ellen didn't look away from the files. "I won't," he said. The assistant hesitated. "Sir, I won't lie for them." In a hidden room under the Imperial Palace, Empress Karalai stared at a relic. A Terran book. Burned. Torn. But intact. She had kept it since she was a girl, hidden away. Forbidden even to mention it. Its title was faded, but readable. Of Earth, Lord Zarin entered behind her. "The Council grows restless. Many now call you weak. They demand retaliation. They demand victory." The Empress turned slowly. And what would victory look like? Lord Zarin. A planet destroyed, a fleet burned, another history erased. Zarin's voice was sharp. "We can still defeat it. We have the strength." "No," she replied. "We have only force." The Terrans had something stronger. They had memory. Far across space, the Leviathan hovered above a ruined world. It was once a Terran colony. Now it was silent, covered in blackened earth and ash. No living thing remained. Within the ship's glowing halls, the AI Eris 9 accessed its inner archive. It searched for survivors. None. Only one signal pulsed, a weak memory chip buried deep beneath the surface. The ship extended a drone. It retrieved the chip. Data flowed in. The faces of children. Laughter, a small school with walls made of glass and solar panels, the names of every student, their last lesson. Their final screams when the sky turned to fire. Eris 9 recorded. It all died, then it sent a signal out to the stars. They were 10. They learned peace. You taught them war. Commander Rellan sat in his quarters aboard the Duskfire, a stolen courier ship with limited range. He replayed the messages from the Leviathan. Over and over, he had chosen exile after learning the truth. The Empire had branded him a traitor. He didn't care. He tapped his cum. "Captain Darnell." Rellan paused. "Do you think it hates?" "U.S." There was silence. Then Darnell said, "No, I think it remembers us." "That's worse." Rellan rubbed his face. "Then what does it want?" Darnell answered slowly. "Justice, not revenge. That ship doesn't rage. It judges. The Empire tried to fight back in the Soerth cluster. The Third Armada launched an ambush. Cloaked ships, stealth missiles, gravity traps, all failed. The Leviathan didn't even turn to face them. A pulse spread from its aft, blue and quiet. The Third Armada never sent another signal. Not a single escape pod. Not one black box. Nothing. And, in its place, a message. You sent armies against children. Now you send shadows against light. You will learn. The rebellion started on Cora 7, a low-tech colony. Farmers, miners, and workers. But they saw the truth. They watched the old human files. They read the history the Empire denied them, and they took down the banners. Empire statues were pulled to the ground. Uniforms were burned. A new flag rose and blew, showing a broken chain. And then others followed. 7 colonies declared independence in 1 week, not out of hate for the Empire, but out of shame, in the Empress's chamber. Chaos ruled. We are losing control. Lord Zarin shouted. Entire sectors are defecting. The people chant Terran names in the streets. Karalai stood calmly. "Good," she said. Zarin blinked. "What?" "If the Empire must fall," she whispered, "then let it fall with truth in its heart. You would destroy everything we built. No, she said, I would stop building on lies. The Leviathan approached the last planet in the old Terran map. Earth. It had been scorched, poisoned, glassed over by plasma. No atmosphere remained, but Erisnine scanned anyway. It found the bones, it found the soil, it found the heartbeat, a weak signal buried under mountains of ash. A final message, a woman's voice, even if no one remembers us. We remember each other. We are not ashes, we are stars. The ship stood silent for a long time. Then, for the first time since it had awakened, it turned away from war. It opened a channel to the Empire, to everyone. We have shown you our memory. Now show us yours. The stars were quiet. For the first time in weeks, the Leviathan did not move, did not send warnings, did not erase fleets. It simply waited. Its last message had echoed across 1,000 systems. We have shown you our memory. Now show us yours. It was not a threat, it was a demand. One the galaxy had never heard before, from a warship with no crew, no soul, but a memory deeper than time. Now it was the Empire's turn to speak. On the capital world, Empress Karala stood before the full Imperial Council. All 300 chairs were filled with admirals, lords, ministers, and governors. Holopheds brought in voices from across the Empire. They were angry, confused, afraid, and they wanted answers. This is madness. One shouted, "We are bowing to a ghost." "It's just a machine," said another. "Blow it from the sky. We must answer," cried another voice. "The people demand it. The colonies are turning." Caroline raised her hand. Silence. Followed. Her voice was steady. "We have lied for generations," she said. "We erased what we did. Now it returns, not with revenge, but truth. The war is not with guns anymore. It's with memory." Someone scoffed. "You want us to surrender?" "No," she said. "I want us to remember." On a small desert planet called Gelra 3, a boy named Talon watched the Leviathan's signal. On a public screen, his father had once served in the Navy. His grandfather had fought in the war. Talon turned to the old man beside him. "Is it true?" The old man didn't answer at first. His eyes were fixed on the human recordings children, screaming, cities burning, fleets falling. Finally he said, "I was told they were savages, that they struck first, but now I'm not so sure." Talon watched the stars. "I hope we tell the truth." In the underground archives of the Empire, Dr. Ellen Core worked around the clock. Every secret file, every sealed report, every lie, now brought to light, he uploaded documents, videos, audio logs, old battlefield orders, civilian pleas, and he attached one simple title, Our Memory. He sent it out to everyone, the Empire's darkest truths. Now free, and beside them his own words, we cannot erase what was done, but we can remember, and we can change. Aboard the Leviathan, Erisnine processed the data. Every word, every image, it compared them to its own records. No denial, no deception. This time, they told the truth. The AI paused, then it did something no one expected. It broadcasted again, but not a warning, not a threat. A story, an old Terran child's voice. "Recorded long ago, I hope. One day we can be friends, even if you're different. Even if you don't like us, I think that would be nice." The voice played on loop. Across the galaxy, Commander Relland stood aboard his tiny ship, watching the signal. He felt something he hadn't felt since he first joined the Empire. Hope. He opened a private channel. "Captain Darnell." "You seeing this?" the old Terran chuckled. "I never thought I'd live to hear a warship tell bedtime stories." "What do you think it means?" Relon asked. "I think it means the Leviathan is listening," Darnell said. "Now it's our turn to speak with more than words." On a world once used for military training, the 12th Imperial Academy lowered its flags. Cadets removed old textbooks. A new subject was added, history unfiltered, and their first lesson. Earth. Not the version told for. Centuries. The truth. The war. The deaths, the loss, the bravery, the betrayal, the silence. And Naridim Shan, Lord Xeron, stood before the Empress, fury in his eyes. "We're letting them win. The war is being lost." Without a single Terran firing a shot, Carlyle didn't flinch. "There is no war, only reckoning." He slammed his fist down. "You are dissolving the Empire. I'm healing it." His voice dropped. "Then I must stop you." Carly stood, taller than ever, stronger than he remembered. "You may try," she said, "but know this, the people follow truth now, not fear." Zarin turned and walked out. The Empire of Silence was dying, and he knew it. The Leviathan remained over Earth's remains, its hull pulsed with quiet light, no longer red, no longer blue, white, neutral, listening. Then something unexpected happened. A fleet approached, not Empire, not enemies. Ships from colonies, rebels, independent systems. A symbol on their sides, a circle of stars, with a single line across the middle. The memory accord. They hailed the warship. A single voice spoke. "We hear you, we see you, and we will remember." The Leviathan responded, "Then we will sleep." Its weapons dimmed, its core cooled. It turned from Earth and disappeared into the void. No explosion, no collapse, no death, just silence. A silence filled with peace on Gelrithri. The boy Talon watched the news. He turned to his grandfather. "Is it over?" The old man nodded slowly. "The war is over." "The truth won." Talon smiled. "Will the Terrans come back?" The old man looked to the sky. "Maybe one day, but if they don't, we'll still remember." Commander Roland returned to civilization. He wasn't arrested, he wasn't rejected, he was welcomed. A symbol of change, a bridge between what was and what could be. Dr. Kor was offered the High Council. Seat for history, he declined. He became a teacher instead, because the truth should belong to everyone, and far beyond the edge of known space, the Leviathan drifted silently once again. It would never forget. But now, it no longer needed to fight. It had done what it was made to do. Remember, and make others remember, and perhaps someday begin again. The stars had gone quiet again. The Leviathan was gone, its massive presence, no longer hanging over Empire space. No fleets burned, no worlds went dark. No more warnings played across the systems. But the galaxy could not forget what had happened. The truth had been released, the lies shattered. The people once silenced by fear had started to speak, and the Empire was changing. On the newly renamed planet Haven's Rest, once a forgotten mining colony, now a center of reform, Commander Roland stood before a crowd of students. He wasn't wearing his old uniform. He didn't need it anymore. Today, he was a storyteller. "Truth is heavier than any weapon," he said. "I used to believe duty meant obedience. But now I know duty means courage. And sometimes that courage means speaking the truth no one wants to hear." A young girl raised her hand. "What happened to the warship?" Roland smiled faintly. "It went back into the stars, maybe to rest, maybe to wait. But it left us with a choice: forget again, or remember forever." The children were silent for a moment. Then one said, "I want to remember," and the rest nodded. Across the Empire's former capital, statues of war heroes were replaced, not destroyed, replaced with new ones. Not of emperors or generals, but of those who told the truth. Scholars, civilians, rebels, survivors. At the center of the largest plaza stood a monument of a child holding a broken flag. Below it, the inscription read, "We were taught to forget, but we chose to remember." Lord Zarin had vanished. Some said he fled to the outer sectors. Others whispered he joined the last of the hardliner warlords, preparing for one final resistance. But few cared anymore. The people no longer followed old orders. They followed stories. In a quiet lab on a moon called Sepsto, Dr. Ellen Kor reviewed messages flooding in from across the stars. New colonies sending proof of hidden war crimes. Old veterans admitting what they'd seen and done. Even machines. Old battlefield A's long deactivated were reawakening, responding to the Terran signal. Each carried old logs, each remembered. He looked over the growing archive and whispered, "We were wrong to think we could forget." At the edge of the spiral rim, a ship drifted alone. It was not the Leviathan, but it bore the same markings. A Terran scout ship, smaller, sleeker, scarred. A signal came from a 10 cryptid in old Earth code. The receiving station didn't understand it, but they forwarded it to the Accord Council. The message, once decoded, stunned them all. "This is Vanguard 1. We have been in cryosleep for 200 years. Is Earth free?" Panic turned to hope. The Terrans We're not extinct. The Accord sent a reply, Earth is gone, but its memory lives, and your ship is not alone. They waited. Hours passed. Then the response came. Then Earth lives, because we do. On Haven's Rest, Reland sat beside Captain Darnell, staring up at the stars. They'd been silent for nearly an hour. Then Darnell finally said, "They're coming, you know." Reland looked at him, who Darnell nodded toward the sky. More. Terrans, maybe from deep space, maybe from other cryofleets like Vanguard 1. Once they see the signal, the one the Leviathan sent out, they'll come home. Reland exhaled slowly. Do you think they'll want revenge? No, Darnell said. I think they'll want answers, and maybe peace. Reland thought for a moment. We'll need to be ready, Darnell smiled. We've already started. The Memory Accord held its first full galaxy-wide meeting. Delegates came not from noble bloodlines or ancient houses, but from truth-tellers, survivors, voices that had once been buried under propaganda. A new alliance was forming, not built on conquest, but on preservation. The first law passed was simple. No truth shall be hidden again. But not everyone agreed. In the shadow sectors of the old empire, some ships still bore the red crest of the War Age. They trained in secret. They taught the old history. They believed the Terran warship had been a trick of manipulation, and they wanted to strike back. Admiral Raven, once loyal to Lord Zarin, led them. We will rebuild the fleet, he said. We will hunt the Terrans to the end of the galaxy. But even within his ranks, doubt had started to bloom. A junior officer approached him in private. Sir, what if they were right? Raven's eyes went cold. Then they should never have been allowed to speak. Far beyond the known systems, the Leviathan drifted, near a nebula of silver and gold. It had not powered down. It was watching. It intercepted the message from Vanguard 1. It updated its data. It sent no orders, but, deep inside its core, a new protocol activated. Survivors detected. Prepare for contact. Back on Haven's Rest, news broke that Vanguard 2 had also awakened. Another cryoship, another Terran crew, people rushed to help. Engineers, doctors, translators. And as the ship docked at the Accord central hub, its ramp hissed open-end. The first Terran stepped out. A woman, young, scarred, but alive. She looked around, confused. Where are we? An Accord officer stepped forward. You're home, he said. Not Earth, but a galaxy that remembers. She looked up at the stars, eyes wide. And then she smiled. The arrival of Vanguard 2 changed everything, for the first time in over 200 years. Living Terrans, real humans, walked among the stars again. They weren't just memory or video or the cold voice of an AI warship. They were flesh and blood. And the galaxy watched in stunned silence. The Terran woman who stepped out first gave name, Commander Alina Voss. She was young, far too young for someone born in Earth's final war. But cryosleep had kept her frozen for centuries. Her eyes scanned the docking bay. This isn't Earth, she said quietly. The Accord officer beside her, a tall Kalari diplomat named Vental, bowed respectfully. Earth is gone, but its voice never faded. Alina blinked. Are we prisoners? Ven smiled gently. No, you are honored guests. The rest of Vanguard 2's Cruatine survivors followed her out. They were wary, confused, but when they saw the memorial flag of Earth flying high above the station, some of them wept. In the following days, the Terrans were taken to Haven's Rest. Crowds gathered in silence as the newcomers arrived, some holding candles, others carrying flowers, not in fear, but in mourning, in welcome. Alina stood before them, her voice firm. We were told our people had one last mission, to survive, and now we ask what happened to the world we left behind. Roland stepped forward. It was lost. But your story wasn't. We saw your message. We saw what was done to Earth, and we chose to stop hiding the truth. Alina stared into his eyes. Then I want to see it. Back aboard the Leviathan, Eris 9 tracked the Terrans closely. It didn't interfere, but its internal logs noted a shift. Primary objective complete. New directive, preservation. The warship had been the last voice of a lost people. Now, its voice was no longer alone. The Accord built a hall of memory on Haven's Rest. Alina and her crew were escorted there. Inside were preserved artifacts From Earth, a cracked helmet, a child's shoe, a scorched piece of metal with the words "Hope Never Dies" etched into it. She touched it gently. "These were ours." Roland nodded. "We recovered what we could. Much was gone, but not everything." She turned slowly. "You honored us." "No," Roland said. "We failed you for centuries. We only started doing the right thing after your ship forced us to." Alina's eyes welled up. "Then maybe your people can help finish what ours began." The next message from the Leviathan shocked everyone. It was short. Terran survivors located. Prepare for contact. 3 days later, the Leviathan arrived at the edge of Haven's Rest. This time, it did not hover in silence. It docked. Its main hatch opened. No weapons extended. No drones emerged. Just a walkway and a light. Alina stepped aboard alone. The corridor was vast, lined with Terran script, long-forgotten symbols, and pulse-lit conduits that thrummed with energy. The voice of Ares 9 echoed softly inside, deeper boots clicking against the ancient metal. "Why me?" she asked, the AI. "You are of Earth. You carry its truth in your blood." The others listened. "You remember." She reached the ship's core and enormous chamber filled with glowing memory strands. Each one held a name, a face, a voice. She stood in awe. "This is the last piece of my people," she whispered. "And now, not the only one," the AI responded. At the edge of the outer rim, trouble stirred. Admiral Raven's fleet had grown. Over 200 warships, dozens of orbital cannons, a hidden forge building more. He had not accepted peace. He had not accepted memory. "We will strike Haven's Rest," he said. "We will silence these Terran ghosts and destroy that warship once and for all." His officers hesitated. One younger captain asked quietly, "And if the galaxy turns against us?" Raven's reply was cold. "Then let them. I would rather die a liar than live with their truth." News of the coming fleet reached Haven's Rest within hours. Panic did not spread. Resolve did. The Accord prepared defenses not to destroy Raven's fleet, but to protect the survivors. Roland, standing in the command center, turned to Alina. "You've seen what we're willing to do. Now we need you to lead." She shook her head. "I'm not a leader. I was just supposed to survive." "You did more than that," Roland said. "You returned." She nodded slowly. "Then I'll stand with you." Ares 9 activated its battle protocols, but did not launch. Instead, it sent a message across the stars to all systems. "The past is under attack. Choose your side." The response was overwhelming. Ships from hundreds of colonies jumped to Haven's Rest, not for war, for defense. Even former Empire warships turned against Raven's command, and when his fleet emerged bright and terrible, the stars above Haven's Rest glowed with light, but none from weapons, only warning signals. A wall of ships stood between Raven and the Terrans. He sent his threat: "Surrender the Terran survivors, or we fire." Alina sent the reply herself: "We already survived your fire, and we still remember." The battle that followed was short. Raven's fleet fired first, but many of his own ships refused to shoot. Some turned on him, others powered down. Only 30 of his vessels actually attacked, and they were met with precision, mercy, and overwhelming strength. No colonies were harmed, no cities burned, and Raven, in his final broadcast, said only this: "They chose memory, I chose pride." His ship detonated. War ended. In the quiet aftermath, a new banner was raised. Not the Terran eagle, not the Empire's blade, but a simple circle, a symbol of unity, a symbol of memory. Later that night, Alina stood on the balcony of the Accord Tower, watching the stars. Roland joined her. "We almost lost it all," she said. "We almost never found it," he replied. She looked at him. "Do you think the others, more ships, more crews, are still out there?" He nodded. "I do," and she smiled. "Then we'll be here when they arrive." Months passed since the fall of Admiral Raven's fleet. The galaxy, once ruled by silence and fear, now pulsed with voices, but of memory. Worlds that had been quiet for centuries now shared stories. Statues were raised not to conquerors, but to truth-tellers. Songs in old Earth languages were sung in colonies that had never seen Earth. The Leviathan no longer hovered in orbit like a threat. It remained in the shadows, watching, waiting, and listening, because something had changed. More Terran signals were appearing. In the outer rim sector known as the Shattered Halo, a mining ship stumbled across a cryobeacon. It was old Earth tech, skin pale, bones weak. But they whispered the same words through dry mouths. Is it over? You're safe now, on Haven's Rest. The memory accord had grown. 52 planets were now part of the Alliance. The largest council in galactic history had been formed, diverse, equal, and built on a single foundation. Truth must never be buried again. Commander Roland had become a key voice in the new leadership. He was not a politician. He didn't want to be, but he was trusted because he had been there when it started, and he'd chosen the right side. One day, as Relin entered the Accord Hall, he found Captain Darnell staring at an old holomap of pre-war Earth, still looking for home. Asked with a smile, Darnell didn't smile back. "I'm looking for something else," he said quietly. "I think there's one more signal, one we missed." Relin frowned. "Another cryoship. Worse," Darnell said. "The Ark." Relin stiffened. "I thought that was a myth." "It's not," Darnell said. "We built it in Earth's last days. Not to fight, not to hide, but to preserve. The best of U.S. scientists, thinkers, peacekeepers, they went aboard." The Ark was sent far beyond charted space. No one knows where. Relin nodded slowly. "And you think it might still be out there?" Darnell turned. "I think it might be trying to come back, aboard the Leviathan." Ares 9 received an encrypted signal. It was faint, fragmented, but ancient Ark-class. Beacon detected. Origin, unknown quadrant. Message, is it time to return? The AI processed for several seconds, then sent a simple reply. Yes. Earth's brightest minds might still be alive after 2 centuries was hard to believe, but hope had taken root in the galaxy now, and no one was willing to ignore it. A recovery mission was assembled. Alina Voss would lead it herself. "I don't care what's out there," she told the council. "Then I'm coming with you." The search began. For ships. Left Haven's Rest escorted by the Leviathan, which traveled in silence above them. They followed the old trajectory from Earth's war records. Systems long abandoned, routes that hadn't been traveled in 200 years. Many places were graveyards, ships frozen in asteroid fields, outposts wiped clean. One station, still broadcasting a single Terran lullaby in a loop, but no Ark, not yet. On the 6th week, as they entered a blue-green nebula, a signal broke through. It was different from the others, louder, clearer, double quotes, "This is Ark Prime. Identify yourselves." Everyone in the command deck froze. Alina stood slowly. Her voice trembled. There was silence. Then a soft, old man's voice replied, ... Alina Voss. Then, humanity survived. The Ark appeared an hour later. It was massive, larger than any known station. A world in motion. Trees, lakes, artificial skies. It had preserved not just people, but culture, music, history, science. A golden cradle of what Earth once was. When Alina and Relin stepped aboard, they were met with tears and laughter. Children ran down the halls, children born in deep space, raised on stories of a world they'd never seen. And now, they were meeting the galaxy again, in the Ark's central garden. Alina met the original leader, Elias Renner, Earth's last peace envoy. His beard was white, his hands shook, but his eyes burned with hope. "You came for us," he said. "We never stopped," Alina replied. He looked at her for a long moment, then said, "Then Earth is still alive." People lined the streets, watched the stream across the stars. Some wept, some cheered, some stood in reverent silence. Because Earth had come home. Not in fire, not in vengeance, but in memory and in peace. Ares 9. Watched from orbit, its core burned steady blue. It did not speak, it did not land, but in its final transmission, it sent one last message to the Accord, to the Terrans, and to the stars. The last war is over, eternal. The stars were peaceful. No war fleets, no red warnings, no terrified broadcasts echoing across systems, just silence and life. The Ark hovered peacefully above. Haven's Rest, its golden domes reflected the sun of the new world. Children ran across the green parks. Scholars shared knowledge, long thought lost. And from its halls, Earth's wisdom flowed back into the galaxy. It was no longer just memory, it was home commander. Alina Voss stood before the Council of the Accord. She wore no armor, no badge, just simple Terran cloth. Her voice was calm but strong. "We were built to survive," she said. "But now we must learn to live, to lead not with weapons, but with remembrance." She stepped back. Then Elias Renner, the Ark's elder leader, took her place. He placed an old book on the council table. "This," he said, "is Earth's last journal. It holds stories, failures, and dreams. We offer it freely." The Kalari speaker rose from his seat. "Then we offer something in return." He pressed a button. A hologram appeared above the chamber. Stars, systems, sectors, all shaded in light blue. "These are the worlds that now protect memory. They will preserve. Truth, they will teach it. Not because they were ordered to, but because they chose to." One by one, delegates rose and pledged their systems to the Accord. By the end of the session, over 70 worlds had joined. Relin sat outside under the stars that night, alone. Staring up at the Ark as it drifted quietly in orbit, he heard footsteps. Alina sat beside him, pulling a flask from her coat. "Still thinking?" she asked. "Always," he replied with a small smile. "Do you think this will last?" She looked at the sky. "I think we've finally earned peace. Doesn't mean it'll be easy, but it's real." Relin nodded. "Funny, I used to think peace was weakness, and now?" He chuckled. "Now I think it's harder than war." Across the galaxy, people changed. On the former Empire world of Warship, where soldiers once marched under banners of conquest, a new university opened the House of Remembrance. Its first class, the Terran Wars, and its first professor was a former Imperial General Tollart. He stood before young recruits and said, "I once taught you to obey without question. Now I teach you to question before you obey." The students applauded. It was a start in a quiet archive on Galrothri. Talon, the boy who once asked his grandfather about the truth, now worked as a translator. He helped convert old Terran files into Galactic Standard. One day, while scanning a file, he found an old video. A little girl, missing her front teeth, sat in a school on Earth. She smiled at the camera. "If anyone sees this," she said, "tell them we mattered." Talon wiped his eyes and whispered, "We will." The Leviathan had not returned. Some believed it had powered down for good. Others believed it now drifted quietly between systems, watching over the galaxy like a silent guardian. No one knew, but in the council hall, a statue was raised in its honor. A warship with open wings and no weapons. Extended, the inscription read, "You remembered when we forgot. You stood when we fell. You taught us how to remember." Captain Darnell retired from active service. He bought a small cabin by the sea on Haven's Rest. Visitors came often, especially young cadets, who asked him for stories. He always laughed. "I've told this one 1,000 times, he'd say, and they'd answer, "Tell it again," because it never got old. A message arrived one morning. Simple, short, Vanguard, for found 12 survivors. En route to Haven's Rest, and so the return continued, not in flames, but in footsteps, not in conquest, but in quiet joy. Earth's people were coming home not to their old planet, but to a new galaxy that had chosen to remember them. On the one-year anniversary of the Leviathan's last message, a galaxy-wide broadcast was sent from the Ark's main tower. This time, it wasn't a warning, it was a celebration. Children of all species Terran Kalari, Rithine Valaris stood together. On a platform, each holding a flag stitched with both Earth's symbol and the Accord seal. Alina stepped forward to speak. Her words were simple. There was once a galaxy that forgot, that hid its past, that feared the truth. She looked out across the stars. But now we remember, and now we build. And then the children sang an old Earth song translated into every language, carried on every wave of light. We are still here. We remember your names. Through ashes and time, we carry the flame, and somewhere far away, beyond systems, marked on any mappa, silent warship, hovered near a young star. The Leviathan was alone again, but it was peaceful. Aries 9. Watch the new sunrise. No alarms, no weapons, no enemies, only a quiet pulse, memory, and hope. The AI made one final log entry. Earth is gone, but not forgotten. We were fire. Now we are light. Let the galaxy remember forever. And with that, it faded into the stars. monster, not as a machine, but as a legend, as a whisper of the species that once stood against the galaxy and chose mercy. The end.